Hi, everybody. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Welcome to our fifth meeting. You see up there the disclaimer. If you are looping or thinking of looping, you can silently raise your right hand and say that you understand that this is an experimental product. This is do it yourself. This is all up to you and your own risk. Nobody's forcing you to do anything, telling you to do anything, or doing it for you. So there you go. Please stay safe with this. Anyway, thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Kenny.
Sounds scary. Okay, you're doing such a good job. Okay, so normally when you build Loop, you download a zip file, right? You download just a zip file, it unzips on your computer. It ends up in this folder like Loop Master, and then you open this project file, and you do all these things where you go in here and you sign everything, and you build. You change it to your phone. I like this, your phone, not your phone. It's the best. Sign your targets, and where's the build button? Push build at some point. I forget where she has this. You push the play button, right? Everybody knows how to do that. So the difference is what happens when you build this way is it takes a while, right? You guys, a lot of you have seen it can take 30 minutes to an hour to go and build the application. What it's doing is having to go online and it's going grabbing all these other pieces I mentioned that make up Loop. Because you're only downloading like the Loop code, but it actually needs to go grab the code from all the other pieces, the other modules, what they're called, and download it and build it as you go. So that can take a little while to go get all those pieces and then do the building. One of the big differences between this method, the traditional easy click and just wait method, is versus Workspace is a Workspace through a fancy little piece of code, a little like you go into terminal and you run something like this. What this is doing is it's cloning, so giving you a copy, right? Cloning. Cloning that, and you see recurse, this word here, recurse submodules. It's cloning everything, all the code that's needed, just everything. Not just like a portion of the code that's needed, but just all of it. And it pulls it down to your computer into a folder. And so the nice thing is you can often download that a little bit faster than through the build process in the normal way. And all the code's on your machine, so when you click build, it builds a lot faster. For some people, it's a couple of minutes. For like me on a virtual machine, it can still be like 10 minutes, but it's not 45 minutes. So it just builds a lot faster, so that's one reason people like using this Workspace method. The other thing is that when you do this, it gets a little more complicated, right? You're not just clicking a file, a link, and then downloading and building. You're having to like change some things you run in terminal, like which branch do you want? And you have the ability in here to, these are all like the related pieces. You can change what pieces you want to grab. You might want to grab some other geeky person's version of something else they're trying out, and you can grab that piece and pull it into your copy. So it's kind of easier to go experiment with other people's versions and of the code, but most of you aren't going to do that. So that's the main reason you'd want to use Workspace, is so you could get real crazy and maybe even develop a little bit. But the other primary reason a normal person that would just wants to download Loop and install it would want to use Workspace is because it's faster, downloads faster, and it builds faster. So that's kind of the main reason you'd want to use this. So you're basically going to run this in your terminal, and it's going to download the code to a folder that Katie mentions here. It's going to go into your home folder, the folder for your user that you're logged into your Mac as. And it's going to put it there. You can make a folder and have it put it there. That's fine. You can change the command to do that. But essentially, it's just going to download it into that folder. And then you're going to go in here, and you have to change the thing at the top, how you choose what to use. You can use regular Loop, but then you're doing the whole re-downloading thing. If you go into the top and you click and you select Loop parentheses Workspace and then pick your phone, it's going to do this. It's going to build everything faster. The other cool thing is that when you do this, you have all of the modules. I don't know if she has a picture of this. She doesn't. You have all the modules available to you to actually change code. So like there's some customizations I didn't this last time, I will often make in the Loop Kit module, which is where all the like math and logic for the card model and a bunch of other things are. Card models is the main one I was tweaking. And it's all in there. So it's the only way I could easily change that code if I wanted to change it, rather than having to do all this other crazy stuff. So Katie put this out. It was much easier for me to do that. Glenn, are there any other benefits you see to using Workspace?
Well, the biggest one is it's just fast. It's screaming fast. I can do a build. You know, if you're doing an update once a week or once every other week, it just gets you through the build so fast. There is a question from Mark, by the way. It's a good time for it. Is the looped workspace always in sync with the file you would have downloaded with the zip file, or does the owner of the branch have to update the workspace? And
Mark,
then I am going to make, and then I'm going to make one other comment too. Is there are some branches where you have to install them with Workspace, most notably the Ivan branch.
Yeah, Ivan's is the easiest because he's keeping the main core loop pieces and stuff. But yeah, so Mark, great question. Do you need to use? I wonder if I can show it. Was Workspace always up to date, basically, compared to the zip file download? The answer is no. So there's been multiple times where Pete has updated the auto bolus branch, and those updates go right in, like, affect the zip file, the normal way you would download Loop using the links on Loop Docs or whatever, or going into GitHub and downloading it. Which, by the way, I don't think I actually covered. I just realized now. If I switched over to automatic bolus and wanted to download the normal zip file that you normally build, you can use the screen button over here and you see download zip, and that will look exactly like the links you use in Loop Docs for master or dev, but this is automatic bolus. So when a commit is made into the repository, when the code's been changed, the zip is updated right away, just immediately. So the workspace is actually another it's another project, really. And so the workspace, where it's pointing, what version of the code it's pointing to, needs to be updated. And most people are going to be, like I am most of the time, is I just rely on Pete to update that eventually. So sometimes it can lag a week or more. I've seen him do that, where the zip is more up to date than the workspace. You can go into the workspace and mess with the submodules and the little table of contents, essentially, in a workspace, and tell it to get the newer version. I've done that once too when I thought I really wanted something whiz bang that I shouldn't have done, and I should have just waited a little bit longer. So I made the change myself that he would normally make in the workspace, but they can be out of sync. That's true.
How out of sync? How much?
Oh, well, it just depends. Again, you got to look at the commits, right? So it's let me show you. So I go to LoopKit here, and you have the projects. You have Loop, but you also have Loop Workspace right here. This is the one that we talk about Workspace. Either there can be other workspaces, other people can have their own copy of the workspace. So most people are going to use the LoopKit workspace. You can see it was updated yesterday. There it is, April 4th. But I mean, I've seen this lag a week or two. It's really up to Pete. Pete's the only one that can update this. So sometimes it's updated right away. Sometimes it's not. I think when I showed you the commits to dev recently, there were updates on April 1st, 2nd, and 4th, something like that. Notice Workspace wasn't updated until the 4th, right? And so he waited a few days, probably because he knew he was going to be doing some updates this weekend and just wanted to wait. Totally fine. It's his time. Do what he wants. So normally they're not too far out of date, so I wouldn't stress about it too much. But when you see a commit being made to a branch you're paying attention to, don't expect the workspace to be updated that same moment. Just double check that it is before you go try and build. I've done that multiple times where I just refresh my workspace on my computer, and it's like the same thing. The changes I thought were there were not there. So
and Mark's asking if you can update. If you can do an update without a build without an internet connection with Workspace, and I believe you can.
Yes. Yeah. So you can. So I actually did this. Again, it was an update. I shouldn't have done an update on the way to diabetes camp, but I did. So we did an update to automatic bolus. It was causing some big problems. I had to pull over to go to McDonald's, get on their Wi-Fi right before we went up the hill, and I just did use Workspace to resync the files back down that had the fix in it I needed before we got up to camp. And then we actually just did the build as we pulled out. Like I didn't actually wait for the download. I didn't wait for the build to finish before I got off the Wi-Fi. So you don't need to have internet connection. You have to have internet connection to go get the files through Workspace, but then once you have them, you don't need to be on the internet to do a build. Another reason I used Workspace was I brought it up at Diabetes Camp, hoping if anybody wanted a build, I downloaded both the dev master and automatic bolus as Workspace, and that way I could, I had a fully offline copy of the files, and I could do a build for anybody that wanted it. So good question, Mark.
But yes, and the other thing that should be pointed out is you can't let your files get stale. So you got to delete them and re-download them.
Yeah, it's the easiest thing to do. You can use some code stuff Katie mentions in there, but I would just delete the folder that you had the files in and then just run the little command here. Just run that again. Joanne asked, is it easier after you set up Workspace for the first time for all future builds? Yes. I mean, once you understand how it works, you just run this again and everything downloads, and you're familiar with what little minor changes you had to make. And so, yeah, it's pretty easy. Using Loop Workspace, you should take responsibility for making sure that all needed modules are updated to the extent you need. Yes, exactly. Because it is possible that your version of your workspace is pointing to an old version of the RileyLink submodule or an old version of LoopKit, but you're using the current version of Loop, and it can cause some incompatibility. So again, it requires you to be sort of like understanding of how to check commits and know that the workspace has been updated as well as the code you're after. So the zip file is generally easier for people because it's the first thing that's updated, and it'll pull all the newest versions if you get a fresh zip file. So good point, Odd. Thank you. You can connect to each branch under Workspace and do Git as needed. Yes, you can. Yes, that's fun. Marion knows what she's doing more than me. She's, yeah. When it comes to the code stuff, she's got it. So, okay.
Back pretty quickly. Any topics you want to see? Let us know. Just question if there have been any updates to RileyLink.
Nothing substantial. I mean, there's like new cases that you can buy and things like that, but there's been a little bit of code changes in that module, but the RileyLink itself hasn't really changed.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Please be safe. Have a good day, and we'll catch up real soon.